Fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you said when you know you got moves. You spit game and you know you spit.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fastlane Collective. I'm your host, Brianna, and I am joined with Daniela is back. Daniela, how are you? How are you doing? We missed you last week.
I am good. I've been so busy. I feel like I haven't recorded an episode in ages. And also, Brianna and we haven't recorded an episode together in like what feels like 2 months. It's been such a long
Yeah.
time. But things
I
have been
know, our
good.
lives.
Our lives have both been really hectic. I've been working a lot, which is the joy of being a freelancer for a bit. But as of tomorrow, which when you're listening to this is as of today, I'm going back to my previous job at Whisper. But with a little bit of a twist, I've been promoted to junior assistant producer of Formula E. So I'm very excited to kind of delve into that new role, and I'm
Sorry, I gotta give like a real cheers. Like, yes! Okay, continue.
But I'm like diving right in, and I'm heading straight out to Valencia to film a feature all on the women's test, which will be my first proper feature that I've produced myself. So I'm a bit nervous, but also so excited. If you have listened to us for a while, or you listen to our F1 Academy episodes, you will know that I am such a big believer in women in this sport, and I'm a massive fan of both W Series and F1 Academy. So getting to be like mixed up with it along like that grid of like incredible women is something I'm very excited about. And I will definitely be talking all about it in a few weeks' time on the podcast. But yeah, things are looking good. Brianna, how are you?
I'm doing good. You know, very busy with work, and it's starting to get cold here, and the sun is going down much earlier, so our days are getting shorter. But we're starting to really get into fall here where I live, which is a beautiful time of year. But yeah, not as exciting as your life. I am not headed to a racetrack to interview drivers, which I can't wait to hear about. I'm so happy and excited for you. Literally getting to watch your dreams like come true over the past several years that we've been podcasting together. It's just absolutely wild. And I'm sure over the break, we'll do a whole episode just kind of like on your journey and stuff like that, because it's just an amazing story that I think you agree, like, is good for other women who have aspirations to be in the sport to hear. Because like we were saying before we even jumped on here, you were like, isn't it crazy? Like, I was graduating uni with an acting degree, and I wouldn't pinch myself if you told me like I was going to be filming a feature with some people that I really, really admire in the racing industry. I would have laughed in your face and told you like, no way. So it's really, really cool. I'm excited for you. But I know we are both so excited to jump into this spicy Mexican Grand Prix because, ladies and gentlemen, we have a real drivers' championship race on our hands, and I'm so excited this weekend. Like, I was already excited, like at the Austin GP, with how close things were getting. This weekend, now I'm really excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what F1 fans have been waiting for. I feel like we've missed this. We haven't had this in a while. Do you feel the same way, Daniela? Like, after the Mexico Grand Prix results, you're like, oh yeah, let's go.
I'm so excited about it. I think that we've not since like 2021 have we had this much excitement when it's come to the Drivers' Championship. And everyone like internally dies and if anyone brings up 2021. So maybe this year we can kind of change the narrative with how the Drivers' Championship is won and kind of it going down to the wire, but hopefully not in a really controversial way like it has happened in the past. But yeah, I'm so excited. I am a Piastri fan, but I'm actually like quite happy that Lando has taken the lead because it has added that extra spice that I feel like we needed. So I'm so excited to delve into the Mexican Grand Prix because this might be one of my favorite races of the season.
Agreed. This was such a good one, and I wasn't expecting it really to be a good one. I don't know why. I mean, this track does often develop really great racing. It is quite tricky to pass around this track as well. And obviously, we are at the highest altitude racetrack on the calendar. So this affects, the lift and coast, temperatures in the car. They often struggle with tires. Are also a huge thing at this track, maybe more than others, around management and heat, and it really added just that extra unpredictability into this weekend. But yeah, man, I mean, you mentioned obviously Lando and Oscar's fight. Um, and I think what makes it really interesting is because we've got two teammates on the same team. That kind of battle this close hasn't happened in one team in quite a while. Um, and also, it's like, I feel like a lot of people are so divided. Like, obviously, Lando has been with McLaren for so long. He was there during the hard times and has been with them and worked to get that car to where it is today. So some people are kind of like, oh, I really want Lando just to have this because, time, dedication, he's been with that team through it all. But then you have Oscar, on the other hand, who's a really lovable driver and a fantastic one at that, and has really been the first driver Lando has had on the team that has challenged him. And you've got this side of you that's like, oh, but Oscar, like, I really want him to win too. Like, he's such an amazing driver. So it's like this inner conflict, I feel, for a lot of people. I think some people are putting their hands up at this point and they're like, whatever, I just want one of them to win. Like, I don't even care which one. But that's also becoming a little bit trickier too, because Max Verstappen has come into the game and is creeping ever closer, especially after this weekend's results. And it's not totally impossible that he could steal it from one of these McLaren drivers. So, I mean, before we fully jump into what's going on with McLaren and how their weekend turned out this week, let's jump into the very beginning of this race. Lap 1, absolute chaos. Danielle, I don't know about you, but I probably held my breath, I think, until around lap 3 of this race, because it was just so exciting. The fact that Max, George, Lewis, Charles, went 4 wide into the first corner. I mean, it was just absolute chaos. And obviously, we have the first incident of the race in that first lap with cars just seeming to go off into whatever which way they could find. Absolute craziness. What are your takes on lap 1 and just kind of how that all played out? Obviously, some cars having to come back on track to avoid collisions. It was crazy. I don't know what your feelings are on this whole first lap incident.
It was such a great way to start the race because already from that moment, it was controversial because you had drivers coming on being like, but all of these drivers are going off track and that's not fair. And then you've got battles and people going off and then they come rejoining and it's all just absolutely chaotic, but in the best way possible. So yes, I also too was there like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? I don't know what, was kind of the thoughts that are running through my mind during that first lap. But do you know the one thing that shocked me the most was not the chaos. It was the fact that Lando Norris had a really great start and then just disappeared as the chaos happened behind him. And he was not involved in the chaos.
Took off.
Lando on pole is like the most scariest thing in the world. Okay, that could be in a horror film because you just know disaster's going to strike when Lando's on pole. He proved everyone wrong. He was like, no, I am not going to be involved in any dramas and you're not going to see me for the rest of the race. I genuinely don't think we saw Lando after that first corner. That was it. He was gone. I don't remember seeing his car on my screen until the podium. Genuinely, I don't think we saw him. So the fact he missed all of that and it was all happening behind him was for me the biggest surprise. Not the chaos, but Lando. And in regards to chaos, that was beautiful. It was hectic and crazy and terrifying, but it started off the Grand Prix in the best way. Sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of the Mexican Grand Prix because, as you've kind of already touched on, Brianna, the altitude and other elements play into the fact of you can't overtake as well on this track. And sometimes I find it can be a little bit boring. In my opinion, other people might disagree. So the fact that already I was like, okay, I'm locked in now. Okay, I'm gonna stay for this one, because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a boring race. I don't want to do this. Why am I giving up my time to watch 20 drivers drive around in squiggly circles? Like, I sometimes regret my life decisions about, like, I can't believe I've made this my job. Like, what am I thinking? But then the Mexican Grand Prix was like, no, 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 we're gonna remind you why this is your job, because this is actually gonna be a good race. And yeah, and you had George going on the team radio. He's annoyed that everyone's going off and he's moaning. And then you have all the Ferraris going in different ways. And then you've got like Lewis and Max and like, it was just beautiful. If you haven't seen it, and you kind of want to know, you want to be able to visualize exactly what we're talking about, we cannot describe what happened, because too much happened in the space of 10 seconds. So I recommend just going and watching that one clip on YouTube. Just so you can be like, okay, now I get it, because chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Best way to start the race, I think, all season.
Peak F1 right there on lap 1. Yeah, I too. I think when I saw all 4 of them going into the corner 4 wide, which, like, when do you ever see like that many F1 cars battling for a corner? I think I screamed out loud, actually.
Yeah. You just don't see it anymore. Like, it never happens. I feel like is
No.
why it felt like perfection. We want wheel-to-wheel battles. We've been talking about this for forever, because it feels like as soon as the cars got bigger, we've missed out on so much. Like, yes, they brought in DRS to try and help overtakes, but it still is not the same as it used to be. And then this made me just feel like I was like thrown back in time. I was like, oh my God, like there's 4 cars heading into one corner at the same time. That
Yeah.
is incredible.
It was incredible. And just also, like, obviously many of them went off and rejoining the track, and then you're like, wait, like Max obviously ahead of where he left the track and having to give that place back, but everyone is still very much fighting for position. It was amazing. It was everything we've ever wanted. And I agree with you. Sometimes the Mexican Grand Prix can be a little boring, just because, tire management is so big here. Lift and coast for a lot of the teams is something they need to do to manage the tires and just manage the car's temperature. But this Mexican Grand Prix delivered. It delivered everything we wanted, and I think it just invigorated the fan base, if you will, just to get us excited for the next couple of races to come and the end of the season, which is so close, which is crazy to think. But yeah, lap 1, just beautiful, beautiful. We mentioned already McLaren, lots of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. I was so excited for this race for this very reason. I was just locked into this. What is going to happen? We all know that in order to stay ahead of the championship, drivers' championship, Oscar Piastri, if Lando was up ahead of him or winning the race, Oscar was going to need to get 4th or higher to keep that position. And wow, I don't know, Daniela, and I would love to hear your opinion on this, but Oscar Piastri, the past several races, has seemed to be absolutely nowhere. Yasmin and I talked about this last week. Is the pressure getting to him? Is the pressure getting to him? Or is he just, I don't know, is something else going on that's causing this really poor performance? Obviously, finished P5 in the race, qualified P7, absolutely horrible. What are your thoughts on the decline of Oscar Piastri's performance these past couple races?
I think this is a very common theme that happens with drivers who are in the lead of the championship, but it's not quite the final rounds of the season. It's happened in Formula E before. It's happened in Formula 1 before. It's happened this year in Formula E, with the driver who was going to win the championship for like the kind of like 3 rounds leading up to the finale was just absolutely nowhere. He did go on to win the championship couple of races before the end of the season, but he had really awful results up until that point. And I think the same thing's happening to Oscar. You'd reach a point where like it all gets a bit much. And I do have this faith that Oscar's going to be able to rein it back in and win the championship. Now, maybe I'm a bit delusional, who knows? I am also a firm believer that 1 point between Oscar and Lando literally means nothing, because that is still all to play for. And there's some Lando fans being like, well, Lando's obviously going to win now. And I'm like, but you don't know that. You don't know that. And I'd be saying the same thing if it was Oscar was 1 point ahead. We don't know. And that's the joy of having a really close battle like this. I'm surprised it's happening to Oscar, though. If this situation was reversed and it had been Lando was leading the championship and then started to have a decline, I'd be like, okay, I was expecting that from Lando just because his mentality is very different. He's a lot harder on himself than Oscar is. He takes things a lot more personally, and is quite an emotive, expressive person, and definitely like tends to overthink things before they happen, which then kind of can lead to detrimenting his results. Now, Oscar seems or comes across as quite level-headed, and I wonder if maybe we're seeing a side to Oscar that he doesn't normally let out, in the fact that, like, maybe he constantly is feeling on edge and isn't feeling as calm as he makes himself out to be. And now these kind of cracks are starting to show that maybe the water has been bubbling under the surface, but it's been looking quite calm for us, but underneath it's going crazy. Like a duck. This is, sorry, a really weird analogy here, but a duck
No, it's a good one.
looks like really smooth, but their legs are going like really crazy underneath. But they're so smooth. And maybe that is Oscar. Everything underneath the surface, everything inside of him is going absolutely crazy, but he's been smooth. But now we're starting to see those kicks. We're starting to see those legs go quite crazy, and he's not being in the position that he needs to be. He had a really poor qualifying, and then he was stuck behind Yuki for like 10, 11 laps at the start of the race, and he could not make it up. And I was like, this is not like Oscar at all. Like, really felt out of character for him, because he is usually someone that as soon as he has sights on someone, like, they're then in his rearview mirror, because he's very quickly got past them. And even towards the end of the race, which we will come on to, he couldn't get past Behrman. Like, he was just constantly getting stuck behind someone and could not get past them. And so I'm slightly disappointed with Oscar's performance over the last few races. If you told me that at the start of the season, I don't think I would have believed you, because he did seem like Mr. Consistent. He was like bringing everything to each race. And it seems like he didn't really need to work that hard to get it. Like, it came quite naturally to him. But the last few rounds, a whole different side to Oscar. Brianna, like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on Oscar? Do you think that maybe we are seeing a different side to him? Or is it just a little bit of bad luck?
Yeah, I think your analogy is a really great one, because when everyone thinks of Oscar Piastri, they think calm, cool, collected. Like, you never see this man break. We saw it once this season, his frustration kind of come out of it. But we don't often see it. What I think, honestly, we're seeing happen now is, and we kind of discussed this in the last episode, so I won't go, babble on about it too much. But I think within that team, it is very obvious that Lando Norris is their boy. I just think Zach Brown is a big old Lando Norris stan. Not that he doesn't like Oscar Piastri, but obviously rumors have come out over the past couple weeks, especially with McLaren being in court. With Alex Palou, sorry. With Alex Palou, Alex Palou saying his WhatsApp messages saying Zach said that, like, Oscar was never really his choice. He didn't really want Oscar. I just think that very much the Lando favoritism is real. And I think Oscar's finally seeing that and having a bit of an aha moment of like, whoa, maybe this team isn't as behind me as I thought. Especially with this weekend, Oscar saying the repercussions that were put on Lando for their little collision a couple races ago. Basically, they're like clean slate. Those repercussions aren't there anymore, which I thought were stupid to begin with, but that's another podcast episode. So I really feel like that's what's kind of going on. I think we're not seeing Oscar crack under pressure of holding on to the Drivers' Championship. I think we're seeing him start to realize, like, man, this team doesn't feel very much behind me as I thought they were. It kind of rings a little bit to me of like Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo-esque. Obviously, two very different drivers and performances were very different, but kind of like, oh man, I was your golden boy a couple years ago, and now now I'm not. And just kind of having that realization. And I think that's what's happening there. And that's why we're seeing the performance drop, is more confidence, Oscar's confidence in his team to put him in a good position, to put him in a position to keep the Drivers' Championship. He's having a lot of doubt there, I think. So that's my conspiracy theory on what's going on with McLaren. But like you said, they're just 1 point. I can't even believe we're saying that. 1 point apart. That is crazy. And anything can happen. I think in order to make anything happen, obviously Oscar Piastri has got to up his game. He's got to get his head back in the right place, regardless of what's going on there, and just keep delivering the performances he was delivering earlier. Daniela, tough question for you, but what are your predictions? Couple races out from the end of the season. What do you think is going to happen between these two? And do you think Oscar will be able to recover and take back that Drivers' Championship spot?
One thing that I had predicted a few races ago was that we were going to see more incidents between Lando and Oscar, to the point where Max was going to be able to kind of capitalize on that and start to close down the gap that he has between the McLaren boys. I don't know how necessarily true that is, partly because Oscar hasn't been where he needs to be in order for instance between the two of them to happen. But I do think if Oscar is then up there with Lando, that we could start to see those things start to happen. I do still think that Oscar might just win it. But I am starting to have, this is the first time that I've had doubts about that. And that is just, this past weekend has made me to start doubt it because of just how impressive Lando was this weekend. And how, in comparison, to Oscar, how strong Lando looked and Oscar really didn't. I've gone, oh, what if I got this wrong? Because I've been talking about this the whole season. Before the season even started, I said to you, Oscar's gonna win. Okay, it's literally, we did a whole podcast episode of our predictions, and both Yaz and I was so confident with Oscar winning, and now I'm scared.
And my boy's coming back.
But I think that whatever happens, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, okay, Lando's now got 1 point ahead and he's going to go off, win every race. He's got the championship. It's a done deal. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think it's going to keep switching, which is crazy to think because we really don't have very many races left. And that terrifies me right now because I'm like, if we had a few more races and things could smooth out a little bit and then it won't be as hectic and crazy. That's not what's going to happen. And I'm scared. So basically what I'm trying to say is chaos will be happening, and we also need to kind of look behind at Max, because if chaos does happen, Max will be right around the corner, ready to pounce.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, I did predict Lando Norris would be winning the Drivers' Championship this year. I thought about this morning and I was like, oh, yes, my prediction might come true. And I've believed in him this whole time. I'm not going to lie. I would say Lando Norris's performance this weekend has to be the best performance I have seen from him ever. Let's just quick rewind back to qualifying. That qualifying lap he put in Q3, unbelievable. My jaw dropped to the ground. I honestly was like, where did that come from? I didn't even think he was capable of doing something like that. And man, did he surprise me, and I'm sure hundreds of thousands of other people. That lap was 1 minute, 15.58 seconds. Unbelievable. Just absolute perfection. Max, dare I say, oh my God, I can't believe I say, Max Verstappen level type deliverance there on that lap. And then he just, like you said, we saw him leaving the chaos behind in lap 1, and then you didn't see him again until he crossed the finish line. And you barely saw him cross the finish line anyways, because there was so much going on behind him. They were like, he crossed the finish line. Okay, quick, back to Max and Charles. it was just an unbelievable race for him. And he's doing everything he needs to do right now. With the way Oscar Piastri has been performing, Lando Norris has been showing up every weekend and capitalizing on it. And that's exactly what you need to do. That's exactly what he needs to do right now in order to put him where he is right now, which is leading the Drivers' Championship by 1 point. He's not out of it. And I think if you would have asked us that maybe 6 or 7 races ago, we probably would have said, Oscar's pretty much got this in the bag. But here we are, 4 races to the end of the season, and we honestly can't tell you who's going to win it or not. I mean, if it's going the way it's been going, Lando's got this one in the bag. But if Oscar is able to kind of come back to play, it will be very, very interesting. I think another really quick question for you, Daniela, is if worst case scenario happens and Oscar keeps just unable to capitalize every single weekend, do you think that possibly we could see Max Verstappen overtake Oscar Piastri for second in this Drivers' Championship?
That's what makes me nervous, because theoretically Max can still win the Drivers' Championship, right? So if Oscar doesn't pull it together, he's not only going to lose out on first, but he's also going to lose out on second. And that will hurt. And I don't want to see that. He needs to get it in gear. Excuse the pun. That was actually unintended until I realized it afterwards. But he needs to pull this together, because Max very much, he is such an incredibly strong driver. He's 4-time world champion. He knows what he's doing, and Oscar doesn't have a championship yet. Neither does Lando. Oscar is a little bit less experienced than the other two because he's not been in F1 as long. And I don't want his kind of inexperience, so to speak, be the cause of his downfall. When you've got Max Verstappen in your rearview mirror, you're going to have to do everything in your power to defend, because you don't want that guy overtaking you on track or in the championship standings. So really I think it's a possibility. I genuinely think it could be a possibility. Not that I don't want to think about it, because I really want Oscar to win the championship. But at the rate that this is going, Oscar needs to be careful.
Yeah, careful is the perfect word to use here, because it's almost like he's walking a tightrope right now, Oscar Piastri. That's very much what it feels like to me. And 4 races to go, that's not a lot of time. Not a lot of time to pick up the points you need, or at least to pick up enough points to make you feel comfortable and okay. But man, am I so excited that we've got 3 different drivers in the mix for the Drivers' Championship, 4 races out. Just, you couldn't ask for anything better as an F1 fan, for sure. And the fact that 2 of these guys have never won a championship before either, raises the stakes, I think, a little bit. Maybe for the fans, but also for them as well. Where Max, I mean, I know he wants to win the Driver Championship. I don't think he'd ever say he doesn't, but he has won championships before. So you also have to think of that as well. These 2 guys have never won a championship. Max has a lot of experience, with that pressure on his shoulders. Will we see that kind of play into how things are handled? Who knows? I don't know, but it's exciting. And this weekend was just, I couldn't believe it was happening. Couldn't believe Lando was putting in the performance he was putting in. I couldn't believe Oscar wasn't putting in the performance I expected from him, especially in qualifying. When I saw P7, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? P7, holy smokes. It was like you were watching it just crumble in front of you. It's crazy. So we will wait and see. Brazil is obviously next. And every race is going to be a nail biter until then, honestly. Just seeing how this plays out. Let's go into talking about another team this weekend that had great success. Maybe not so much for the one driver at the end, but Ferrari. Surprisingly, really great result for them. Fantastic qualifying with Charles in P2, Lewis in P3, which I think a lot of people were happy to see, including myself. It's the fastest I've seen Lewis this year, I would say, and it was a positive thing. We did hear from both drivers, both saying, you know, they feel more comfortable in the car, that the things that they have brought to it over the past couple weeks have seemed to really, really help them. And Lewis, it specifically, seems more comfortable at the moment with where this car is at. Were you shocked, Daniela, to see Ferrari again performing just as well? I know Yasmin and I talked about it last week. Will they be able to carry this momentum to Mexico? Um, so were you surprised to see it, and do you think that will continue until the last race this season?
I think it will continue. I think they've had kind of like a shift in the last few races, especially like coming off the back of the summer break. Um, and I like going into qualifying and then starting second and third, I thought, okay, I actually think they're going to be able to hold on to it as well. Like there wasn't a part of me that was like, well, they've qualified there, but are they actually going to finish there? Like I thought that they would. And I think if Lewis didn't have the penalty that he had, I I think he would have got his first podium for Ferrari, which is kind of sad to think about because he was so close and he just missed out on it. But overall, I would say it was a pretty strong weekend from them. They were both very fast and, you know, like ended up with finishing for Charles second, which I feel like when you had Max Verstappen honestly looking like he was gonna make the move, and then ultimately that didn't happen, which we'll come on to later. But I think that I would take that as like a win. Like I thought it was a really, really strong weekend for them both. Just a shame that, you know, Lewis got that penalty because he was bassing it out with people. Like he was really going for it, and I think it was for me one of the most impressive races from Lewis this season. I think we've kind of missed like the old Lewis, and I feel like we saw a glimpse of that this weekend. So I'm hoping that it will continue going forward. But I think they've kind of gotten over that like rocky start, and now things are kind of starting to smoothen out for them. So I expect to see them like more consistently in the top 5 over the next few races.
Yeah, I think they have kind of gotten over that rockiness, but unfortunately as a Ferrari fan, and it's just a little too late. Like we're 4 races to the end. This little getting over the hump of the start of the season should have happened races and races ago for it to kind of mean anything. But it it was good to see them where they were. Like you said, Lewis really seemed to just kind of be putting in some really great laps, especially in qualifying. Very surprised at his speed. And the Ferraris overall just seemed quite well at a track that a lot of teams are struggling with grip with the tires, especially, and also Lando Norris making that joke about lifting and coasting in the press conference, about Ferrari having to do that all the time. You know, you worry about temperatures and like, is that going to affect their ability? But it didn't seem to. And Charles did a fantastic job managing his tires. Obviously, they had kind of had to take a little bit of an unpredicted swing here and try to get those mediums to the end, which I was like, oh God, I'm scared. Like, I don't know if that's possible. But he did a fantastic job doing that. But yeah, Ferrari, honestly, this weekend just surprised me. I was very unsure if they were able to carry that momentum or if Austin was a bit of a fluke. But yeah, you mentioned Lewis Hamilton, that 10-second penalty for his incident with Max, really just kind of put a big ol' wet rag on his day, finishing still with points though in P8, but I really do believe if he didn't have that penalty, we could have seen Lewis on the podium this weekend, even though there were people unexpectedly quick like Oliver Bearman, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I think we could have seen possibly Lewis's first podium. And I think that's why you saw Lewis so bummed kind of toward the end there as well, because I think he thought the same thing too. So, but still, decent result is positive, even though it didn't, for Lewis, turn out the way we would have hoped at the end. Still, great results. Charles Leclerc, obviously, great race. Great defending as always. I think he's the new like Ministry of Defense. I know we call Checo Perez that all the time, but like Charles Leclerc's defending abilities are unbelievable. Almost at any time he needs to defend. I'm always very impressed. With Charles Leclerc finishing P2 this weekend, which was absolutely fantastic. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, Daniela, but that virtual safety car. Whew, without that, I am not sure we would have seen Charles Leclerc P2. I think Max would have gotten behind him. And even Charles said that in the cool down room. He looked at Max and said that safety car saved me. Because honestly, it coming out in lap 70 of 71. Were you just also as shocked as I was and kind of took a sigh of relief when you saw that safety car come out?
No. I was like, why is there a virtual safety car? What's good? Like, why? Why now? Like, everything's happening at once. You've got Oscar trying to attack Ollie. You've got Max trying to attack Charles. I'm like, there's too much happening. We can't have a safety car out right now. Like, there's too much. And other people that I was with at the pub also agreed with me. We were all like, no, what the hell's going on? Not like the final lap. And then I haven't actually seen like what happened in terms of Carlos causing the virtual safety car. But I've kind of heard people say that maybe it wasn't even necessary that we needed the VSC because he wasn't in a place that was going to cause any harm. Now, in the coverage that I was watching, which was Sky Sports F1, they didn't actually show Carlos. So we had no idea exactly where he was on the track. So I couldn't say for sure whether it definitely needed a VSC or not. But I feel like it just came at such a time when there was already so much going on. And then I was like, please don't finish under virtual safety car because that'd be so anticlimactic when things were really heating up and getting crazy. But it did save Charles. So I'm happy about that. But I was disappointed. And also, I got really angry at one point because of the camera. I think it maybe was either the camera operator or the director just didn't cut in time. But there was a moment as the virtual safety car, I think, was ending and the camera panned and it was following Max and Charles. And then all of a sudden, they carry on and the camera's not following. And I literally went, what the hell? And everyone else was so confused because they thought something had happened. And I was just having a go about the camera. But maybe that's just because I work in that part of the industry. But I was like, no, you're missing the good bits.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Daniela, because I was watching the same broadcast and I also have the same reaction. I was like, ah! I was like, no, where are you going? Where are you going? Yeah, go back. And they did they were like, oh shoot, we're still on. Take it back.
Yeah.
But I also had the same panic moment of what's happening now? But yeah. I don't think you were the only one too disappointed by the virtual safety car because I actually talked a little bit because when this virtual safety car came out, Karuna Shandok, his reaction to the virtual safety car on the broadcast, he was like, oh, like all of us were.
I literally was like, yeah, Karuna, I feel you. I feel the same. I get that because I was so disappointed because I genuinely thought I was like, well, that's it. That's the race decided then. And I thought, I can't have that. I'm not having that. So I'm so glad when I saw that it was going in. I was like, yes, we're this is what I need. But I feel like it just, at that point, it'd gone in too late that nothing could happen. Now, I did kind of want, I wanted Oscar to get ahead of Ollie just because I want Oscar to win the championship, even though I was quite happy that Lando is now 1 point ahead because now that creates drama and tension. But at the same time, I also was like, but I really, really want Ollie to finish fourth. And I was like, sorry, Oscar, but please don't overtake Ollie. So when that, with the virtual safety car with that, I kind of was like, well, I want Ollie to stay in fourth, so that I don't mind. It was more like this battle between Max and Charles and how Max had gained massively. He just kept getting. I was looking at his lap times because I can't just watch F1. I have got the F1 app open. I'm constantly checking what tires people are on. For those who are watching, I can show you my crazy notebook of all of my notes that I make whilst I am watching F1. I don't take F1 lightly, like I go ham. So
I
I
love
will
it. I love it.
I'll write out the starting grid, and then next to it I'll write down what tyre they will start on, and then I log the race. So anything incident that happens, anytime someone pits, I write it down, but then I'll also like go back up and then write what tyre they're on next to their original tyre, so that I can keep track of this. I need to keep track of the strategy. So I'm going like, absolutely crazy about all of this, and I'm just not chill about it. So I just was like looking at my phone, seeing that Max was getting faster and faster and faster, and I was like, this is going to be spicy at the end. And if we didn't have that virtual safety car, that would have been great. Like, I honestly think we would have had Leclerc's really strong defense against a really great overtaker in Max. I just think it would have been beautiful, but we kind of missed out on that.
Yeah, we got a little robbed there at the end. We did get like 4 turns of action after the safety car when it was ending. But yeah, it wasn't the ultimate battle that we all wish we wanted to see, but we still got a little of it. But yeah, I'm sure Charles Leclerc's like, I don't freaking care. Like, thank you for the safety car. Because those medium tires were, I don't know how long he would have been able to hold on. He had been on those medium tires way too long, and honestly he did a fantastic job managing them. I can't even believe he even was able to take him to the end, let alone defend a little bit there. But honestly, Ferrari, well done this weekend. Now they are in second in the constructors standings. Obviously constructor been won by McLaren, but there's still money at play there. We still got something to fight for. So they overtook McLaren there and are now sitting in second in the constructors. We'll see how the rest of the 4 races go. I think the next race will be a telltale sign if they've actually improved the car and are feeling better, or if these last 2 races have just been kind of an outlier. So we will see. Speaking of Mercedes, our last big topic for this episode. Oh man, I mean, Toto Wolff wasn't there this weekend. Feel like it kind of showed with the strategy decisions. Obviously, toward the middle/ending portion of the race, we saw George Russell tailing behind Kimi Antonelli, and just, the strategy there was iffy, unclear, happened too late, didn't happen when it should have, kind of thing, with the switching of the 2 of them. But honestly, what I took from this whole thing with the McLarens, with the Mercedes this weekend, George Russell was giving me so much Karen energy. Like, his complaining, just constant on the radio. It was like, enough, dude. Say what you need to say to your team and then get on with it. Like, just do what you need to. You just constantly whining in our ears for like 5, 6, 7 laps was the most annoying thing I have ever witnessed in Formula One. Daniela, do you feel very similar to the fact about hearing George Russell's just constant complaints and whining to the pit wall?
Yeah, like I agreed with him initially. I could see where he was coming from, right? How I see it is he wanted to switch places with Kimi because the gap was quite close. He needed Kimi to go faster because he had, I think it was Oscar behind him. And he knew that if he then started to try and fight Kimi for that position, Oscar's going to capitalize on that because they're going to slow it down. And then Oscar just could end up doing a double overtake and getting both of them. And he's thinking about the team as well as himself there. And I understand that. And I know that people have said, well, why didn't he just swap? But he knows, okay? He knows what he's doing, which is why he didn't just go for the overtake, because that would have been more detrimental. But at the same time, I trusted Kimi in this race. I think Kimi knew what he was doing. And yes, I think that overall it probably would have been better to have switched them. But I think that Mercedes wanted to give Kimi this opportunity to go out and prove himself. And having George just pipe up constantly about it. And he made a comment about you see that McLaren behind us, do you want do you want him to get us? Or like, I can't remember exactly what it was that he said, but it was very like sassy and like sarcastic. And I understood his point, but then I just kind of got fed up because I was like, George, like, just stop now. Like, come on. Like, let's pipe down a little bit. And it was the same at the start of the race with the whole lap 1 incident. Like, I understand that he's annoyed that everyone went off track. And I know that, like, the whole point of having a track is that you stay on it. And, like, those are the limitations. I get it. And I do understand and see his point. But he kept going on and on and on and on about it. And then he did post-race as well. And I was like, George, come on. Like, that's enough now. You're the only one like going crazy about this. Like, let's calm down. Like, we're all fed up. And the people that I was watching F1 with, like, all had the same opinion of like, George, like, this is too much now. Like, come on, let it go.
Yeah. Gave me the ick. It really did. Like, I even every time, like, I'm not even kidding. Every time his little like boop, boop, like thing came up and I saw it was him, I was like, oh my God. I was literally like, I think I did say like out loud, I was like, shut up. I was like, shut up. Like, it became like you said, like whiny. And it was like, you voiced your opinion to your team once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and then you start to get like sappy, like, do you not see this McLaren up my ass? Like, yes, they see the McLaren right behind you genius. And we're not like defending. I agree, and like you said, like he knows what he was doing, but it's just kind of the way he went about it. And we know there's a lot of adrenaline pumping through these guys as they're driving through the track. And we've said this before, like, it's very hard for them to keep their cool. We can't necessarily expect them to. But there's just been something about George Russell this year that has just got, he's like this whiny, privileged, like, like boss. Like, it just, I don't know. Like, he's stepped into this leadership role at Mercedes. I think he's done a phenomenal job when it comes to delivering on track and the consistency he's put in. But like this attitude he seems to have this year of like the know-it-all in class is really getting to me. And this weekend with the constant whining, like you said, at the beginning and the end and during, it's just really, really annoying. Like, say your piece and then get on with what you need to do. Like, the fact that you are just constantly crying about this as you're still going around the track, you're distracting from what you really need to be paying attention to, which is what's happening right in front of you and behind you. So get your head right, get it in the race, and keep going. But yeah, I don't think it's a good look. Just wasn't a good look for George Russell. It made me like, oh God, like make it stop. I don't want to hear him anymore. Like, shut up. But they did bring this up in the broadcast, Daniela, and I want to know your opinion. Like I mentioned, like George Russell seems to have this like, I don't know, air about him this year. Do you think this has anything to do with the way his contract has played out at Mercedes this year? Do you think that's why we're seeing this kind of know-it-all entitlement or frustration from George Russell?
Absolutely, without a doubt. You know, like, I think he thought at the start of the season, this is done deal. Like, I'm Mercedes' #1 driver. I know what I'm doing. No.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be in a situation where you're waiting patiently for your contract that you don't know if you're going to get and if it's going to happen. And that's that's the position that George was in. And I think that he's acting like this because he's frustrated and annoyed. And I understand that. And, you know, it's okay to feel that way. But also at the same time, like, you guys could have capitalized so much more on the race if he wasn't whining so much. And he just instead, like, put his head down and got on with it. There were so many things that, like, I think he could have finished a lot higher up if he had actually kind of gotten over this little tiff that he was having. But it definitely is down to that. Like, he's frustrated, and his contract was it's been like so ongoing for a while that it is frustrating. Like, and I get it. But
yeah,
just,
and I understand.
yeah, just
Yeah.
carry on. Like, you need to put, like, save that for when you're not on the track. Like, right now you're on the track, right now you're with this team. Like, get the job done.
Yeah. And I totally understand why George Russell would be frustrated because he has done well for Mercedes this year. He has delivered consistency, consistent points. Um, and if I were in his shoes, I would be like, why wouldn't you be offering me a contract? I've done what you've asked and more. Um, and I'm finally the number one driver, and now you're like hesitating. Like it seems I could understand why there might be some animosity kind of underneath all of that. But sometimes too, as a driver, I feel like George Russell is watching too much what's going on with everyone else sometimes than he is focusing on his own race and what he needs to do. Um, he, I always joke every time I hear him during a race. He's like, "Oh, someone went off on a turn 2." like, "Oh, Lord, Lawrence he's off the track limits." Like, it's like, George, focus on your race. Focus on you and what you can do. Um, and even though I do agree with, I think Mercedes should have switched Kimi and him much sooner. I think George would have had a better chance, to possibly get more points, possible podium, maybe. I don't think so, but he could have been in a solid 4th place, I think, if they didn't keep him behind Kimi for so long. Uh, but also part of me is like, when he did ask the pit wall about switching, Oscar wasn't up his butt at that point. So, like, if you were saying you're faster, they gave you the okay to race. So, get it done. And if you weren't able to get it done in that time, I don't know. And then they switched, and George wasn't even fast enough to really catch up to Oliver Bearman, and then they switched back, and I don't know. What I'm saying is, George Russell, I think, needs to focus on himself and his race
Yeah.
and stop being whiny.
Yeah. It gives, like, when you, like, you've got, like, a 4-year-old and they're at school and someone
Mm-hmm.
else is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So that child goes to teacher and is like, so-and-so's doing this. So-and-so, that is George Russell. And he does it
Yes.
so often. He's like, this driver went off at this turn.
Yes.
This driver went off and gained an advantage here. This driver did this. And I'm like, okay, George, just you do your race. I know that we all don't, as a collective, I know that we all don't trust the FIA, but let the FIA do their job and we can always raise this concern afterwards. The team are aware of it. You don't need to tell everybody, okay? The team probably
Mm-hmm.
clocked it the same time that you did. It's okay. You just do you. You focus on overtaking your teammate and getting closer to Ollie Bearman because
Mm-hmm.
you could have finished 4th today and you didn't.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I'm with you on that. We don't disagree with what he was asking for. We just disagree the way he went about it. And maybe if he wouldn't be complaining so often on every single race about something, um, we wouldn't think much of this. But different story. Anyways, let's end on a happy note because we got to talk about Haas and Ollie Bearman. Ollie Bearman finishing 4th, so close to the podium. There was a huge chunk of the race where I thought, oh my God, this might happen for him. We might see another podium for a rookie this year. And just, wow, what a fantastic race for Ollie and also for Haas. It has been a long time since they've been that high up in the pecking order. So it was so great to see. Daniela, were you also happy? You mentioned a little earlier in the podcast you wanted to see him in that 4th place. How happy did this make you feel as somebody who's been advocating for rookies for a very long time?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the rookies, and I have been. And I think the last few seasons, I kept going on and on about how I needed more rookies. And you know what? I feel so proud because the rookies have done me proud. Like, Antonelli's had some good performances this year. So has Isaac Hajar. Now Ollie. And I'm like, see, guys, I told you we all needed to get some rookies in here. Yeah, I'm so happy for Ollie. I think that maybe he needs to go on like in the car with Amelia de Moldenberg maybe a little bit more because that seemed to, pay off because he came home in 4th place after appearing on her latest show where she gets F1 drivers to teach how to drive, which is highly entertaining. But yeah, really strong weekend from Ollie and felt very proud to see him kind of take that next step in his kind of career and kind of show people what he can do because I feel like he has pushed the Haas as much as possible this year, But this weekend he had a little something else, and I think that that's going to start to kind of pique interest for future seasons. I think, yeah, if he keeps this up next year as well, he is going to be looking quite desirable to other people, and that makes me quite excited.
Yes. And like you said, like we've seen every single rookie have some really, really great performances. Obviously, I think Isaac Hadjar is just having a great season in general. His rookie season has been phenomenal. But we've seen every single rookie put in more than one very good performance, and finally seeing Oliver have his moment, just amazing. And also just to see the emotion from his parents, from his girlfriend, like it was just, you could just see the joy and how proud they were of him, which is like pouring out of them. And I think it's just a reminder of like, yes, this is this driver's career path, and they've put everything behind, you know, being successful and hopefully becoming an F1 champion one day. And these kids, frankly, have put off a lot of their childhood in order to pursue that dream. But I think also we need to remember a lot of the families do that as well. They sacrifice a lot, their time, their money, their life, to get their child to this point. So when you see like Oliver accomplish just a simple 4th place in his rookie season, like you would have thought he won the race the way his family and his girlfriend were reacting. But just to see the pure happiness and pride that they all had, and just to see Oliver also overcome by that, and you could just see how much it meant, which was so, so great to see. And hopefully he can carry this positivity and this kind of like newfound fire of like what it's like to kind of be in that top 5 fighting up there for a possible podium. Hopefully that'll just light the fire under him even more, seeing that it just was so close to it this weekend. Do you think we could see Ollie on the podium in one of these last 4 races, or do you think that'll be a 2027 Ollie Bearman thing?
I think that would be like, yeah, not this year. I think he needs to. I think this weekend was an anomaly. I'm not expecting him to be in the top 5 in the next 4 races. But Ollie, if you hear this, go and prove me wrong, please.
Yeah, and well done. Just well done. It was a crazy, chaotic race, and he navigated it perfectly to get him sitting into where he was. And his qualifying performance, also fantastic. Like, such a great, and at such a tricky track where a lot of drivers were having tire issues and grip and temperature. Just well done. And we love, like you said, to see the rookies succeed. It just goes to show that you should give these guys a chance, because there's talent there. Just have to be patient. F1 or Red Bull, I should say. You just have to be patient. So, all right, that's all we got for you on today's episode. What a fun race. Can't believe we've got 4 more to go. Brazil is next. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And especially the last 4 episodes. I'm going to bring you all the hot takes and the spiciness that is going to be this Drivers' Championship battle. Everybody strap in, buckle up, because this is going to be wild. I'm so excited. But yeah, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, or we're over on YouTube as well. If you like to watch your podcasts, you can do that there. But until next race, you guys, we'll see you in the fast lane. Bye-bye.
Hello, fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you, glad you came too. Like you said when you know you got